What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to the pre-snap read, and we back. We back. You know, we coming every week with you. We're hard hitting facts. HBCU sports, HBCU basketball, football, baseball, softball, tennis, anything you want, we got it. We like McDonald's. We giving out stuff like dollar menus out here, man. This week, man, we got the lovely Robin McGee. Tell what's up, Robin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to week three. Wow, we are really getting it on this road of success with all of these shows. I'm really excited. I love that. Welcome everybody to our talk of the day. All these HBCU sports. I'm excited to have this discussion.
Definitely, man. And we got the man, the myth, the legend himself. Shoot, he may know your grandma, he may know your uncle. Shit, ain't no telling who he may know. We got Coach K in this thing, man. How you doing, Coach K?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great. What's up, people, man? Glad to be here. Another night, as Robin stated, week three, getting to it, putting out the HBCU news and information as it related to sports. So, man, excited to get into it. A lot of stuff took place over this past weekend and a lot of stuff to talk about.
Definitely. For you guys, you don't see Jerry right now. He may show up a little bit later. He has some personal business stuff to handle. So we're gonna let him handle his personal business.
It's part of the mafia for sure. I'm
Yeah, but,
convinced.
when he come back, we in full effect. We in full effect. Shoot. Go ahead, Robin.
All right, guys. So this past weekend, we had the first ever inaugural HBCU Classic where Howard University, Morgan State went head to head. And I didn't get a chance to watch this game, but I definitely got to see some highlights. And this was a very intense game. And I felt like being in the inaugural season, and this is the first year, this I feel like was the perfect game to get this kind of event started and get people wanting to see more and also getting these universities the recognition that they deserve. These athletes did a phenomenal job. I'm looking at just a little bit of the of what happened, and it looked like Howard actually came back to win over Morgan State to a 68-66 comeback. So, I mean, give it up for Howard Bisons. They did a phenomenal job. Coach, did he get a chance to see or, get some good advice or to see what would happen at that game? Did you know it was going to be a blowout? Did you feel like it was going to be a close game? Like, what's your thoughts on
Gotcha. Well, first of all, I knew it was going to be a close game. It's going to be a
it? Hmm.
dogfight. Probably one of my, and I don't want to get to necessarily the bad just yet, but one of the things about these two teams are about 30 minutes apart. They're institutions. And so,
Hmm.
whenever you have that situation in place, you're going to have a dogfight. It's the fight over I-95, if you will. Everybody want to rule that, especially
Right.
as it relates to HBCU sports. So,
Hmm.
that's a big thing. Hey, kudos to those schools and to the people that put it together. Those schools both receiving $100,000 each back to their institutions. So that's always great for our HBCU schools. Looking into the future, one thing I hope is geographically we can pull two different teams together to be able to compete in that. Because again, going to Cleveland for a team that was 30 minutes apart, I'm sure exceptional, great experience for those teams, but definitely would like to see maybe a MEAC SWAC matchup, something along those lines, like a Norfolk State versus a Jackson State type situation, or
Hmm.
a FAMU versus a Howard. So definitely want to see that, especially with some of these recruiting classes that we have coming up. I would definitely solicit to whomever the minds be that is putting that together to definitely look at the recruiting classes of these teams, as a lot of them are definitely making big steps in the right direction, putting some of the top players in the nation on their rosters.
Yeah. And just from a business perspective, do you think that it is a good idea that they're kind of combining it with the NBA All-Star game, considering that each NBA All-Star game will be at a different location every year? So that may impact some of the schools that are chosen for those, events. Do you think that that's a good idea for them to kind of sustain that type of connection? Or do you think maybe eventually they can, bridge out and maybe have it at a different time or a different location other than being so connected to the NBA All-Star game?
So, Robert, one thing I originally stated was that I thought that, it would be better to go, into like a week type format where different
Hmm.
events can be built up around it, et cetera, et cetera. And I still think that they can both coexist. And what
Okay.
I mean by that is maybe that's the conference tournament, for the SWAC or the MEAC, or maybe something is created similar to the Celebration Bowl. Because
Mm.
oftentimes when you look at the SWAC, when you look at the MEAC, they're one big conferences as it relates to basketball. And so only one team's going to get in, no matter how good the second team is or the third team is. So why not put that opportunity for those teams to be able to compete?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea. I did like how it went down as far as the game this past weekend. And I'll say this, the publicity for those schools, on that platform is major. And I
Hmm.
don't want our HBCU schools to necessarily move away from that, to quote unquote do their own thing and lose that opportunity. At the end of the day, the NBA has been around for a long time. They have reserves, they have a lot of financial revenue. And so having that backing, I think is great. But my advice with that would just be to try to, increase that thing demographically. I know the location is always changing, but when you really want to build it, you really want buy-in from the viewers that are going to follow HBCU basketball. You
Right.
might be something that you want to take into consideration. But I think it's great. But I also still like my other idea with possibly having something beyond the postseason tournaments where maybe the runner-up in the SWAC and the runner-up in the MEAC, compete in an annual game in a said location, i.e. Atlanta. I think that would be a great draw because too often it's just that one team that gets the bid and that's it. We don't get any WNITs. It's very rarely that we get any of those things. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, that's great points because like you said, there was a lot of exposure, a lot of support. I see that Chris Paul, Stephen Curry all got to meet the teams personally, went into their locker rooms, chatted up, gave them some motivation before the game. A lot of stars were there, and they were predominantly there for the event as well as the All-Star event in totality. So definitely can understand your points there and having that exposure, but eventually we want to get bigger and better, and having our own little event and bringing our, the piece into, our HBCUs matter just outside of just always having the connections to bigger names and bigger foundations. So I think we're definitely moving to that arena, but it's probably going to take some time, of course. But I know we have this for so this HBCU Classic was definitely dedicated to our men's basketball, but what's your opinion about our women basketball athletes? Like, do you think that they should have something like this as well, or do you feel like that's going to take a little bit more time just because of the status that men's basketball has in totality across all institutions?
No, I women's basketball definitely deserve that platform, and I think that is coming in the next year.
Mm,
It's one of those things where unfortunately for too long, women's sports have kind of been an oversight. And
hmm.
when they're putting these things together, especially when you're talking about inaugural type things, first year, they're just kind of looking at that. But no, women's basketball definitely deserves a place there, and I certainly see that coming in the near future. I'll tell you this: they've always been a part of my plan related to the postseason tournament. That's a huge draw. You go to some of these schools to their women's basketball programs, and they have great followings. You look at the Alabama A&Ms, you look at the Jackson States. Their fans will be there to support. You better believe it. And then just too, like we always say, the HBCU culture. Look, if FAMU there, I'm trying to find a way to get there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just like I look at the game and coming up here in September where we meet up with an old team out of there in Mississippi. Tickets
Hmm.
bought. I'm in the building. When our
Yeah.
teams are somewhere, we're gonna try to do everything we can do to get there. So um definitely for the women though, I would love to see this happen sooner than later. And I definitely think that it'll be a great draw and it's a great platform for them, possibly get the WNBA involved.
Yeah. And so off that point, last thing, if we have something that like you said, in the next year or so, they have some event like this for our women's basketball, specifically our HBC women. Who would you like to see in that competition? What two teams?
HBCU women, ooh, well,
Yeah,
um, can I go across all conferences?
go for
Yeah.
it. This,
Oh,
this
okay.
is open ended because it hasn't been created yet. So
All
maybe
right.
if we, start the ideas, we could just submit it to
Well,
the
I would like to see
WNBA. Let's
Jackson
do it.
State and North Carolina A&T go ahead.
I love that. I
Okay.
think that
I'm here to see it.
That's a boss game in and of
Definitely.
itself. Just thinking about the institutions, thinking about those athletes, that would be a huge game. I'm
Yes.
writing it down, submitting them a letter next week. Like, okay, while y'all
So,
preparing for next year, also add this to your agenda. Let's talk about it. I'm all for it.
Mhm.
definitely.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the SWAC men's basketball. You know, we have Alcorn, Southern, TSU. They're in a three-way tie in the West. Who is going to be, what we need to look for? Who's going to be kind of coming out of that tie? Probably like setting some distance. What are your thoughts around these teams? Where are we going?
So it's going to be both sides is extremely competitive. The men is even more competitive right now as we
Hmm.
get ready to get to the postseason play. As we know, the SWAC tournament is 8 teams from the men and women's side. Unfortunately, a few teams have eliminated themselves by virtue of just mathematically there's no way to be able to get back into it. And I know on the women's side, that's Mississippi Valley State and Alcorn State.
Yeah,
So with that being said, though, those are teams that you want to watch in the final games.
yeah.
When teams feel like they don't have much to lose, they're playing for their scholarships, for their institutions, they're going to come out and they're going to give you everything they got. They're going to throw it to the wall. So look for those teams to compete hard in the next couple games here. Also on the men's side, Mississippi Valley State also eliminated there. A couple teams in the hunt. I know on the women's side, you got FAMU and you got Bethune. We're going to both need a lot of help. We would basically need Grambling State to lose the remainder of their games. I don't know that
Hmm.
that is likely, but they are on a 3-game losing streak. So we
Hmm.
shall see, if Grambling State continues to lose or even Pine Bluff. Pine Bluff also sits at 7-7. So depending on what happens with those two teams. However, one loss for either FAMU or Bethune-Cookman on the women's side, and that's going to eliminate us from the postseason tournament. Still, young lady, I want to bring up again the Williams young lady out of Jackson State.
Hmm.
Still killing it. Still averaging upwards 19 points a game, getting it done night in, night out. A pro. And I really hope that people are starting to take notice of what she's doing. On the men's side, it's a lot closer. When you
Yeah.
look at the standings and look at how things are playing out, only one team is eliminated. You got Bethune-Cookman, Alabama State, and Pine Bluff all on the cuffs. They're kind of on the outside looking in. But I mean, they're literally within one game, 2 games at the max. So
Right.
every night right now is a dogfight, as it relates to SWAC, men's basketball. They're really getting after it. Southern still, atop. Southern and Texas Southern, two
Hmm.
teams that have kind of been there, kind of proving their way throughout the course of the season. I see them continuing to do it. Also, Alcorn. Alcorn has made a splash, and they're also sitting at 10-4. So you got 3 teams there, sitting at 10-4 at the top of the SWAC. That's going to battle it out to the last game. I mean, with 3, and in some cases 4 regular season games remaining, we'll see how this play out. It's really hard to say, who's going to do what. It's really about matchups at this point. And then right there, sitting at number 4 is obviously FAMU, who's only 1 win behind. So,
Yeah.
pick up a big win tonight against Alabama A&M, and right there in the mix, we could potentially have a 4 or 5-way tie. So, the men's side is very interesting. Going to be, there's no flat out, this is who it's going to be. We'll see them at the SWAC tournament. That's not the situation.
Right.
And also that also makes for a very exciting SWAC tournament. All of
Yeah.
the teams are so
Yeah.
evenly matched, if you will. I mean, it's really going to be who's going to go out there, put their blood, sweat and tears on the line, and who's going to go out there and get it and be the best team night in, night out when they show up to that tournament. So it's going to
Right.
be an exciting tournament for sure on the SWAC men's basketball side.
The pre-snap read is sponsored by Sadie's Delights. This food is banging, man. Y'all gotta try this Sadie Delights, man. He got that honey lemon garlic chicken breast this week, man. Y'all gotta go get this boy plate. Sadie Delights. I got his Instagram, IG below.
Yeah, and I see these margins are very close. Like how you mentioned, like it can be anybody's game as we continue throughout this season. It's really come down to the last point when that buzzer hit, where we at. So, and then just, moving into the women's side, you spoke a little bit about it, but, Howard, Compton State, you got Norfolk State, they're all looking to be at that number one spot. What do you think, in your opinion, that these teams really need to focus on in order to, secure that position? And who do you think is actually going to make that happen for them?
Gotcha. Well, it's tough. The MEAC has been very interesting this year.
Mm,
To be frank with you, before everything played out, before the balls rolled out, they said the game's always got to be played. I thought that Howard was a clear winner in my mind. Just based on obviously Coach Ty, what she's done with that program, having arguably one of the best assistant coaches in the country, and Brian Davis. Just his knowledge of HBCU basketball and recruiting. I thought they would be the clear winner. But
Right.
Larry Vickers, Norfolk State University, you can never, ever, ever sleep on them. I mean, literally, ever since he has taken over that program, they are a team to be reckoned with. He recruits, one of the biggest hotbeds in the country, right there in the Virginia Beach area, Hampton. They're going to be a force. He's always going to have athletic kids. They're going to get up and down. They're going to they bring a swag about them. A little flair about them. When they step out on the court, that's just kind of who they are. So, very hard to say. And then Coppin State, Coach, I think is in her first or second season, has really, really turned the thing around. And I mean, she came from Montverde Academy down here in Florida, where she did an excellent job here and made the move to be a Division I head coach. And excellent job, man. Who would have thought that Coppin State would be in the situation that they're in right now? Just shortly after her taking over this program. So kudos to her. I know earlier in the non-conference play earlier in the season, Coppin State was upsetting teams. They were showing that they were, a force. And if they can get back to that, I think they kind of hit a slump somewhere there in conference play. But if they can get back to that, any given night they can beat anybody. They got a Leah Lawson there that played JUCO ball there in Tallahassee at TCC. And she's a flat out killer. I mean, she'll knock it down at 3, and she'll also attack in the lane, and just a great decision maker. So MEAC's interesting. I can't say for sure. I can't quite put my finger on it as to who is going to be even the regular season, yet alone the tournament. But again, those make for great tournaments. Going to be a great one to see.
Right. Now, just looking at the numbers, I see margin-wise, Norfolk State is leading for the MEAC women and they're leading in defense, but they're a little lower in numbers as far as offense. Now, just kind of looking at those statistics and comparing and seeing how these teams can be able to turn it around, what do you think, in your opinion, is probably going to be the best focus for these teams? Do they focus on more of their weaker points, or do you feel like, at a time, do we try to, balance everything out to try to make sure that we're playing the best ball that they can? What do you think?
Well, Robin, I'm going to be very honest with you. At this point in the season, you're thinking win, period, point blank. It's getting ready to be to a point where you're winning advance or winning your season's over. And obviously at the end of a college basketball season, a lot of things transpire depending on how things may have went over the course of that season. So right now, all efforts are to win. I mean, flat out. There's no other way to put it. Yes, teams are continuing to scout. They're getting into details. I'll tell you this: teams are doing the things that they do well. Teams are doing the things that they feel have gotten them to the point that they are, if they are successful. And if they have not been successful, they're tweaking things. Okay, well, we need to change this and we need to change this because we want to make sure that, we finish up this season in the best way possible. So that's kind of the focus right now. I mean, at this point, they played a lot of games. The gelling, as they say, the chemistry, should be there amongst all of the teams. And, hey, it's time to go get it, So that's where we at.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great.
But yeah, I feel like defense, transition ball, and rebounding is like the 3 key things that everybody needs to like pay close attention to when it comes down to these 4 to 5 games that they got left.
And what's scary is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because like at any given time, like 2 points it may not be big at that time, or that one rebound to put that ball back up, the offense to get that second chance point. It may not be big in the first half, but in the second half is like that's like gold. Because if you miss out your assignment, or you're not going back on transition D, or you're not paying attention where your man is at in the corner, like that literally little stuff like that can kill you and make a game go out of hand. You may be down by 10 and you got 5 minutes left, and now you're down by 13 because you didn't see the corner right there, corner 3. So like you said, they got to do the little things right, and do what they keep on doing. Don't reinvent the wheel. You've been going for this long. Just try to keep it on cruise control until you go in the tournament. Then try to ramp it back up.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. But what you said there, Ron, that's what Norfolk State does well. You know, defending, rebounding, getting out in transition. I think that's where they're going to have the edge. You know, when you said that, I mean, it was like a light bulb in my head. Like, that's what they're going to do. And if you can't run with them, if you cannot defend without fouling, you're going to be in a lot of trouble because they're going to be athletic. They're going to pro hop. You know, they're going to Euro. They're going to do all of the above. So look for them to make a run here. Look for them to have some success. And, you know, always, whenever you got Norfolk playing in Norfolk, you got a problem. And that could potentially be your situation. So,
that home field advantage is a different beast. I tell you.
Boy,
It's always nice winning at
I
home.
play in Norfolk. Shoot, good boys or girls. We gotta play who at where? We need to play them at a neutral site. If I'm the AD, I'm trying to get me a classic game and play at a neutral site.
Nah, see, that's the best type of games, though. Just thinking of the fan base, thinking of how those games is just gonna really bring them together, the community of that school.
Yeah.
Nah, that's the games you really live for, you know. So I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but you know, if that comes down to it, I would be Norfolk. That thing.
But yeah, shout out to Norfolk though, cause like I feel like they got like a Duke factory, man. Cause like every year they trying to push somebody to go to the NBA or at least overseas or something. It's crazy how every year he's at least going to the tournament or trying to make his way to the tournament. So shout out to them. Shout out to boys and girls over there at Norfolk for real.
Yeah, Coach Jones, the man. Robert Jones, man, gets it done. And again, I mean, they're recruiting hotbed for both. You know, they're in the city over there with Lou Williams, where pros have been coming out of there for decades. So, hey, way to use your resources. You know, a lot of coaches sometimes struggle with that, but they're doing it well. So, again, kudos to them, man, and excited to see what they do in the postseason tournaments.
Definitely.
Now, speaking of a little bit of drama we have in the NCAA world, Coach Juwan Howard of Michigan has been suspended for 5 games, which is essentially the rest of the regular season. Now, I saw the clip of him mushing and slapping the assistant coach of Wisconsin, not even the head coach where he previously had an altercation, a word of exchange with. One, I know we kind of briefly talked about this a little bit before the show, Coach, but you know, there's one thing about words, sticks and stones, you know, but words will never hurt me. But in the back of my mind, I feel like that coach must have said something to allow Coach Howard to think that in that moment, I have to put my hands on this man because he's not taking me seriously. So, you know, in your opinion, you know, what is it justified? Even though it's not right, is it justified? Is it not justified? You know, when at one point do you draw the line, especially when people, because we don't really know what the coach said, but clearly he must have said something. But when do you draw the line to, you know, defend your name, defend your honor, but also not let people walk all over you?
So, Rod, thank you for that. And not to not answer your question, but one of the things I think we should really look at is this tradition of shaking the hands following a game? You know, having spent the last 10 to 12 years on in the coaching ranks, I know how it can be after a game, a hard fought game, to where it's, you know, or your team is having. I've been in those situations. I had a team that was 28-1 one year, and having a hard fought game, and then you go to, you know, different territory where you got different situations, different refs, the whole 9 yards, if you will. And, you know, unfortunately, bad things happen. I know that feeling. And I really think that all people that's in governance of basketball should really look at that tradition, if you will, of shaking hands immediately following the game. I'm a big proponent for sportsmanship. I think that it is great, but I also think there may be another way in which we can do that. However, with your question and with the statement that you made regarding Juwan Howard, Um, I do think that coach took it too far after he was restrained. After
Mm,
being restrained, it's time to go sit down.
correct.
It's time. Okay, I'm gonna head out, as the meme says. It's time to go somewhere.
Pack your
Um,
bags. Time to go.
at that point, that he did take it too far. Now, however, I do want to back this thing up because Coach Juwan Howard, it seems to me like he knew where he was mentally in that moment. And
Correct.
with that being said, this man said, you know what? I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm going to walk through this line. I'm not going to say nothing to nobody. If anybody say something to me, I know where I'm at.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the head coach for Wisconsin grabbed him by the arm. And he
Mhm.
felt that right there in that time, in that place, in that moment, his point had to be expressed. And Juwan Howard was already there. He was already 38, as they say. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So now,
38 hot.
yeah, we popping.
38
You know
hot.
what I mean? We pop. We ain't boiling. We popping. And
What?
so,
Right.
the heat of the moment. Obviously, there was some physical contact. Multiple players got suspended as well. On
Hmm.
both sides. So, things got physical and one thing led to another. Now, as you said, I do think something was said that really kind of provoked him to do that. I mean, look, it takes a lot, man, to be a man and you get open hand slapped on
Yes.
national television.
Across people.
I
He
mean,
said, ah.
look,
like,
I hate to say this, and I don't want to sound the wrong way, but man, you almost wish that it was more of a punch. It was an open hand slap,
Yeah.
right across another grown man's face. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
hard.
It is.
Again, Coach Howard, he should have took a step back. When he's being restrained, being pulled back, in that moment, it's over, Coach. Kill it. It's dead. At the end of the day, it's on to the next game. Your team's having a great season. Why do anything to, possibly put yourself into, more problems. And the bad thing about this, so what a lot of people is not recognizing is that just not too long ago, unfortunately for Juwan Howard, he had a situation prior.
Yep. With the
And
Maryland coach.
yes, yes. So
Yep.
now he's looking like a repeat offender. And this
Yep.
time he actually made physical contact. So I know that, there's some things have come down, like you said, the suspension for the regular season. He also has like a $40,000 fine, but I
Hmm.
don't know if that is from the conference, if that's from the NCAA, or if that's from the institution. I
Hmm.
will tell you all of those entities will have some say so as to what the punishment is for
Yep.
those actions. So I look for things to kind of continue to roll out on that because it's a big deal. I've witnessed high school games where those things occur and schools are fined and players are suspended for, 10 games, 11 games. Like I literally watched this a year ago and, all types of things occurring. And, for to see, what is it, 5 games and $40,000, we'll see. Like I said, that may be the conference team, that may be the school, it may be the NCAA. Not sure of where that's coming from right now, but in that moment, I do wish Juwan Howard would have been the biggest person to kind of remove himself from that situation. But he tried to. He did
Yeah.
try to at the beginning, and
He
unfortunately,
did.
you know, things happened and it escalated to the point that it did.
Right. Do you feel like, well, probably going to be hard to answer this question only because you weren't in the situation, but just if you were to put yourself in Coach Howard's shoes, he didn't apologize during the press conference after the game, after the whole altercation went down. At that point, again, do we kind of, go back to that explanation of you're still taking it too far? Or at that point you just you have nothing else to say? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, those things immediately following games, they're
Yeah.
always tough. They're always tough,
Yeah.
especially when things didn't go favorably.
Yeah.
But one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to question Juwan Howard's morals and values. I don't
Hmm.
know what was said to him by that other individual, so I can't. It's hard for me to say that. Oh, well, this is what I would have done. Just looking at it outside in, yes, okay, I walk away after they restrain me, after they pull me back.
Right.
But being in that situation, having all that occur is a totally different situation. And as we could see there on the court, so quickly, so many bodies get around those situations. And that right
Yes.
there in itself makes that moment in that place so much more hostile. And
Yeah.
so it's really tough. I wish we could erase that, but unfortunately we can't. And then we can't erase history, which was the time before that occurred. So hopefully we can get this, cleaned up, get Coach Howard back on track, and they get back to doing what Michigan basketball does.
Right. Wish him definitely the best of luck. with all of that, because I know that at the end of the day, it is a lot. It's a lot that he's going through, both after the game, probably currently with all the medias and everybody's like trying to have their own opinion. So all in all, I do hope that he makes it through and he's able to kind of get out of this for sure.
But to piggyback off y'all, like, how can I say this? Okay, there's three ways I would have took this situation. There's only three ways to take this situation. One way, like my coach always told me, if you don't feel like shaking hands, go in the locker room. Just turn your tail around, tail and run. Don't say nothing to nobody. Don't even talk to. Don't even say hey, bye. Just go in the locker room. That's number one. Number two, shake hands and just don't say nothing. And just keep walking. Act like you don't see him. Just keep walking. Shoot, congratulate the kids. Shoot. All right, now my third one. This is me personally. I don't think because I'm petty, so I was that athlete where if my coach about to fight, I'm about to fight. Like,
I feel like that's not a technically wrong thing, because it's like I might have my back because my coach gonna have my back, so I'm gonna have my coach back.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna sit up there and say that if my coach throwing punches, I'm just gonna be sitting right there eating popcorn like, oh, look at this, look at them. Like, I'm probably gonna jump in too.
So being a black person in America, we got some words that you don't say to other black people. You just don't do to other black people. You just don't come up to another black man when they already mad and try to grab them. That's number one. And it looked like he said, "I bet. I see you next time. I bet." But some I can't even say that because I don't. Some other ethnicities don't understand, our dialogue when we say stuff. So that's probably number two. He didn't understand the dialogue or where he was coming from. He probably said, "Hey, back off, chill out." I don't know. The mask was over his face. I don't know what he said. But I'm pretty sure he said something across the line. Hey, don't touch me. Because he was waving that finger.
He did.
Hey, you about to get fire smacked out of you now. I already told you, don't touch me. So, like, I mean, I think he warned them. If you warn somebody and they still doing it, by all means. I mean, I ain't encourage him to, mush him like that, because he took his hand all the way back to St. Louis and it came all the way back to Wisconsin and hit him. But all jokes aside, though, but sure, I wish the best luck for him. At least try to figure out where this, I ain't gonna say where the anger come from, because when you're a coach, you need that for your players. But at least try to always think about your players before you do anything. That's for both coaches, not even just for Juwan. Like, that's for both coaches. Try to think about your players, media, and all that before you do something, because just one little thing can just make something big. I'm kind of glad it wasn't the NBA, because if it was the NBA, it would have been chaos. Yeah.
I mean, that makes me think back to the that infamous game. Y'all help me out. Was it the
Malice
Indiana Pacers?
Yeah, Malice.
Yeah. And they had the fans, and it's just everybody just it was like a domino effect. And it would, like, granted, this situation definitely didn't get that deep, but just imagine if, like, they just would have kept going, like you said, Ron. He just wouldn't have stopped, and he would have kept going, because then his players, we already saw, a couple of them did jump in, and now they're suspended. So it's like, at what point do you stop, like you said, and kind of think about your players, think about the overall big picture? But it's hard when you're already in that moment. Like you said, Coach, he already had his mind made up before. He was like, I'm it. This is how I feel. You push me, you gonna get the wrath, and that's just, it is what it is. So on the same respect, people gotta understand that, and not try try to poke the bear, so to speak. So, but yeah, it was interesting. He can't have no more offenses though. After these 5 games,
Right.
and he comes back because he already had the first offense with Maryland, and then you got this. He can't do anymore if he wants to have a continued career, because that's gonna be the hand they fan with. You know, people are very, very. They want you to forgive them, but they're gonna be hard to forgive you. So it's like, you know, you gotta take all of that consideration. So I hope this is it for him. He needs to be sit down, like you said, Ron. Go to the locker room. Go on back.
Hey, I ain't praying on nobody downfall, but you know, the HBCU do need another celebrity coach, you know,
listen,
to hop on his bandwagon. So hey, if you gonna do something, go ahead and do it this season, so you can just hop on the Deion Hugh Jackson bandwagon.
Right.
Shoot, get you started.
We over here believe in restorative action. We will take you. Yes, let's learn from your mistakes.
We will take you. We will reform you, and we will make you a better coach.
No, that's right. You ain't right. You ain't wrong, Ron. You ain't wrong.
Now, I ain't even gonna get on that topic right now because I ain't praying for nobody downfall. I was about to ask Coach K, where you see that man going? If something happened, what ACCU you think he'll go to?
Hey, they always say Alabama State got a lot of money, so does Prairie View.
Okay, shoot. All right, shoot, man. Thank you, Coach K. Thank you, man. Very appreciate it. You know, shout out to Instagram, Twitter, all that, man.
For sure. Thank y'all so much for having me. Always an honor to be here. Blessings to you all, man. And let's have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Coach.
I see you. Man, y'all make sure y'all follow the Pre-Snap Read on all platforms. Shout out to Coach K, man. He did his thing this week. Hey, like I said, follow Pre-Snap Read on all platforms. We out here, man. Let's go. Let's make this page grow. Like, share, subscribe. Peace out.